Okay, so last week we put a layer of, I put a layer of fiber paste. Any layer of any medium would be fine. What did you use, Lee and Joyce? You used fine pumice
And stucco.
and stucco. Any kind of medium that you could find, you put it there to give you texture, strong texture, dark. Not dark, sorry, texture. That's all. We need a. Now, if you cannot find any of that, then just use dab. Start with dark. We're using raw umber right now. This is just raw umber, dark base. And what we could do is dab on the highlight or the lighter colors to get a textured. But this is just fun to do, to put the texture there. And we're going to highlight. It will dry darker because this is acrylics. There's no need to do the stairs in this dark. We can do it in a medium tone. Actually, if we have time. Yeah, maybe we should. You see, all we have to do after, when the dark color is dry, raw umber, is just skim the highlight on top, and it will be really nice. Like just touch the brush, put the brush softly on the surface of the canvas where the medium is, and it just gives you a beautiful texture. Right, we're almost there. That's good. Sometimes I like to work with mediums sometimes. Not always, but sometimes it's fun. Change my brush to a round brush. So you know what, since we're doing this, I'm going to make my color, my paint a bit, add a bit of water so it's not thick and heavy. And I'm just going to go across these steps. This way I can still see them. It just kind of glaze the surface with a light, thin layer of paint in the same color, raw umber. Doesn't have to be, if you lose some of them, it doesn't matter. It was just kind of, you know, when we start highlighting, we can just do it without the, if you lose the lines, you know, the steps, the lines where the steps are, it doesn't matter. We can just do them freehand. There we go. Done. Done. I'm going to let it dry and then we'll come back for the highlights. Titanium buff or white, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you don't have titanium buff, white is fine, because you can mix titanium buff with raw umber. Let's get some, a bit of Naples yellow. Yes, a little bit of Naples yellow. We want earthy colors. And yellow ochre. All right. You should be able to, and we already have raw umber, so we're good. Naples yellow. Any earthy yellow, it's fine. It's fine. You don't have Naples yellow, no problem. Yellow ochre is fine. Yellow ochre is fine. You could use just yellow ochre, white if you don't have titanium buff, and raw umber. Because we're going to still use some raw umber. We can't go into a strong highlight right away. We have to do it slowly. You see, dark, medium, light. So we're still going to be needing, we're still going to need the raw umber. And I'm just taking some titanium buff, a little bit of yellow ochre in here. Are you ready to do that? Okay. I'm going to start from where the light is, from here, top. And all I'm doing with my brush is just pushing my color around. And you see, because we have this beautiful medium on top, It's just giving us a nice texture. So let's say you do this and you want to do, you don't have any kind of access to any mediums and you want to do this texture. Same, all you have to do is start with the dark base, any dark base, and take a round brush. Any of these brushes, something like that. Take your color and dab your color on, or sponge and dab the sponge on. So that can be done with no need for a mediums. But if you have access to a medium that you're going to use after, you're not going to just buy it and throw it out after, go for it. It's really fun. Right? We have to be careful when we go down to the lower part. It shouldn't be all highlighted the same. So I'll show you in a minute. Let's do the highlighted area, which is the upper part. All of the upper part, don't drag it all the way down because we're going to darken when we go down. And some areas are really, really dark. So we don't want to highlight some areas. Okay, so we have here, I'm taking in more of the raw umber. And the more I go down, the darker my highlight is going to be. So I'm going to change my value. And in some areas, I'm not even going to highlight at all. I'm just going to leave it. So I want this part to come forward. So if I want a color to come forward, or not a color, a piece, a section I'm working on to come forward, all I have to do is highlight it a little bit more. Now, again, this is just a medium, or the first layer. We are going to be highlighting more eventually, but for now, I'm going to keep an eye on my drawing, or the reference I have, I should say, and take it from there. So the more I go down, the darker it's going to become. All of these are going to be darker in here, to a point where this part is going to stay just the way it is, really dark. All right, I'm just going to highlight this a bit. So what I have is fiber paste, but any other medium will do. Anything that gives you texture. Sometimes I change my color I add more of the, let's say, yellow ochre, sometimes more of the titanium buff and raw umber, just so the highlights don't look exactly the same all over. Now, I need to keep in mind that this is darker. So if I'm losing my darkness in here, I'll just go back and get some raw umber and put it in there. So this should stay dark. Medium tone. Right. Okay. Just notice that the shape of part of this rock is not that great. So I'm just going to try to fix the shape with dark. That's better. You know, part of the beauty of this reference is the shape of the rocks. It's very interesting, very interesting shape. So I want to keep, try to keep as much as I can. All right. This is good. This is good. Okay, that's good. That's kind of medium tone. So now I'm going to go back, and it doesn't matter what brush you're using, shape, any brush is fine, any shape. I'm using a bright. I'm going to take more of the titanium buff and a bit more of Naples yellow. This is the strong highlights. Okay, let's bring in some of the darks. That's good. So when we're highlighting, not everything should be highlighted 100%. Otherwise, we'll lose the effect. So if I'm highlighting the top here, once I go down a bit, I'm going to change my color, maybe into more of the yellow ochre, and bring in some of the raw umber. So it's not exactly the same highlight as here, up here. It's going to be a little bit darker. And go down with the corner of my brush. I'm keeping an eye on the shape I'm getting with this highlight. So I'm going slowly, really. Don't go fast. Don't paint fast. That's good. That looks good. That's like the actual medium or paste that's on top, it's just doing most of the work. So now with this, I'm kind of with the corner of my brush, highlighting a little bit more, just tiny bit more in here. And when I highlight more or add a strong highlight, I'm going to go back and make sure that this is not too dark in there. So I'm going to adjust the value. Okay, so these are strong highlights right here. And I'm just going to skim my brush over slowly in certain areas. Don't press too hard, just skim. See how the upper part of the, I'm going to put a little bit more of the yellow ochre and raw umber at this point. So when I'm skimming down here, it doesn't look like it's too highlighted. So I'm just passing my brush over the medium and it's giving me that beautiful texture. Don't have to do anything, just push the color around, highlight, and it's just, the medium will do the job. Okay, again, let's do this. Titanium buff, that's raw umber, again, raw umber, titanium buff, Naples yellow, and yellow ochre. So first layer, we did just only raw umber, and now we're highlighting using still raw umber with our colors, a little bit of raw umber, and then we're highlighting slowly. So let's come to this side, and again, I'm getting beautiful texture there. This is strong, too strong. I will take a bit of raw umber on my brush, try to make my highlight slightly darker here. Okay. Now I want this rock to be in front of that one here. So I'm going to highlight this a bit more. Let's take a bit of more now of the titanium buff, a little bit of yellow oak, Naples yellow. I haven't cleaned my brush, so I still have a bit of brown in there, which is fine. I'm going to highlight this tiny bit more. You know, acrylic dries darker, so if you wait a bit to see, wait for it to dry a bit and then highlight again. I'm going to skim over in certain areas here, or dab, doesn't matter, with the corner of my brush. Good. Game over this one. I'm going to keep this in darker than all of, just this area and this area darker. Now this area I really didn't go over with any highlights, but I'm going to actually clean my brush and pick up a bit, dip my brush in a bit of water, raw umber, and kind of slowly put a bit of color in here. Now again, I think this part is okay. I don't have to do anything. Maybe a little bit of, tiny bit of highlight. So let's go over maybe this part, highlight it, touch more.
There's Margaret back again, I think.
Yes, yes, she's back. All right, and here we have a little bit more highlights in here. Now again, the bottom part, all of this, I'm going to keep it dark, but I'm going to bring in some raw umber. Mixed with some of my highlights, and I'm going to go over skimming, like just kind of soft. That's it. So it's not too dark. It's that you don't have a line. I mean, this is really dark. I'm keeping it just the way it is. I'm trying to keep this dark. So maybe a bit of dark in here. Now, this is I'm going to try with the filbert. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'll try for the steps. Or do you want me to stop for a minute so you can work on the rocks? Yeah, I'm going to pause for a minute. Okay, so for the steps, I'm just mixing any of the colors you have here, but mainly the raw umber has to be there. So the steps are dark right now. I'm going to highlight them a bit, kind of medium tone. So if I want to highlight them a bit, and I don't want them to be, I don't want the highlights to be too strong, I'm just going to bring in raw umber, titanium buff, and a bit of the yellow ochre. And I'm going to come here and just kind of go over the dark that I put in there. And this is not the final highlight. And I'm just going to go. If you find that if you put texture in there and you find that the texture is too strong on the steps, make sure that your color is wet. So has water. Like it's not too thick. So the paint goes into the covers, goes into the grooves. Of the texture that you have there. I think I lost some of the lines I have there here, but doesn't matter. I'm dipping my brush in water, adding a little bit of water here to my paint because it's drying fast. And this will cover. More. Last step. That's good. Okay, so I left a tiny bit of space between each one of the steps. Now I should bring in a smaller size, you see, smaller size bright or flat, or this size will do. Let's take titanium buff. And I'm just gonna highlight the top, just put a line in there. Adjusting the highlight of the steps a bit. So a little bit of a highlight, just kind of skimming over with a soft, soft touch. Shouldn't be too strong. Let's bring in some, that's a bit too strong. Bring in some raw umber. Because the top of the step should be the strong highlight, not the actual, nothing else, just the top. Since we have the color of the stone, we can do the house today too, just the walls. This. Okay, so with a round small brush, I'm going to take a bit of raw umber on my brush. Could be dry or a glaze, it doesn't matter. And I'm just going to put a bit of a reflection or a bit of that brown in the water across all over here. So it anchors a bit the rock. in the water. That's good. That's good. Yeah, that looks much better. Bit of white in between to give it movement of the water. Okay, that's good. Okay, for the house, burnt umber. I'm mixing my burnt umber with a bit of Naples yellow and yellow ochre. So we need kind of a medium tone color. Let's see, because we are going to highlight after. All right, that's a good color. I'm going to highlight this color after. So we're starting with just a dark color so we can put a lighter one on top. I'm going to darken a tiny bit with a bit of more brown this side. Don't forget, we're going to be putting a highlight over this. So this is not the final color. Right. I think in my the one I did on paper on this paper, black paper, I did the highlight from left hand side. So I'm going to do the same. Let it dry a bit, and we'll highlight that. All right, let's highlight now. So same brush. It's a small brush, good size. I'm going to take Naples yellow, and I'm going to mix my Naples yellow with yellow ochre. Let's take a bit of titanium buff And let's highlight. It's a good color. I would go a little bit more titanium buff. So not too much yellow. Let's try to tip that yellow into a soft yellow. There. Yeah, that's good. Let's go for that. Wet my brush a bit. I just dip the tip of my brush in water, not the whole brush. And just add some on the screen. It looks like it's really yellow. Like there's a lot of yellow in there. It's actually not that yellow. It has quite a bit of titanium buff. I have to make sure that the strong highlight is here, in this area here. And then the more I go down, the darker it becomes. So this way, it will be, I will start adding tiny bit more of the brown in there when I start getting to the bottom. I'm going to keep tiny bit of dark underneath the windowsill. And now I'm going to start introducing brown, whatever you're using, raw umber or brown, burnt umber, it doesn't matter. Into that mixture and see that the bottom is, make sure that the bottom part of the house is darker. Slightly darker, not a strong difference. And here we go. Let's introduce a bit more of the highlights in here, because we want this to be soft transition, not a strong line. There. In my brush, I'm going to go back to titanium buff and yellow ochre and a bit of Naples yellow. And I'm going to adjust the colors here because the first layer is dry. So, you know, sometimes it needs to be adjusted. Whoa, I went over the awning, but that's okay. No problem. I can put it back. it's looking too light, too strong, too yellow on the screen. It's not that yellow. It's more like a soft pastel yellow here. So I'm going to introduce a tiny bit of titanium buff so I can adjust color. Okay. Let's go to this side. I'm going to take again titanium buff, brown, yellow ochre. I'm going to avoid using at this point Naples yellow here. I want the color of the wall to be there, but I don't want it to be too strong. I'm going to leave a bit of that dark between the rooftop and the wall, because the roof is going to be casting a shadow over the wall. So don't bring your highlight all the way up. Leave a line in between. It looks really bright. This part, especially this part on the screen, it's not that bright. So tone it down. Don't go by what you're seeing on the screen in terms of highlight. It's not that bright. It's just the camera. I can't control the camera. I lost the railing, but that's okay. Doesn't matter. I can put it back. Much easier if I've done the house first and then the bush in front of it, because now I have to go behind it, behind the bush. It's okay. The right order is to do the house and then put the bush in front. All right, let's take a bit of more paint, adjust the color here. I'm not going to go over this too many times because the paint is lifting. So I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave this part darker at the bottom. And if anything, I'm just going to put a bit of paint over here. And let it dry. All right, so I'm going to do right now, round brush, just titanium buff, bit of brown in my titanium buff. And I'm just going to put the detail over here. Actually, I might need white with my titanium buff to show. Windowsill and frame, window frame. I'm going to let it dry a bit. Oh, that's good. Window frame. Just titanium buff. Small window here, window frame. And we will adjust everything next week when we put the actual blue inside. We should see a little bit of dark in here because this wall is on an angle. All right, I think this is dry. Yeah, I'm gonna put some little bit of brown in here with my titanium buff. This is just brown. Okay, so this is where we're at, and next week we will work on the rooftop, windows, door, and the rest. So this is the stage where we're at. See you next week.